Use ink blending and stencils to create beautiful cards. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Creative Coloring with Erum. Today I am sharing two cards with you. Both are very similar to each other. I just switched the colors up and also chose to go with a clean look on one of the cards. For my projects today, I will be using the Build-A-Flower Bellaroma Hybrid Tea Rose stem set, and I just need the outline stems today. I will prep a piece of Crest Solar White cardstock with anti-static powder. This is 80 pounds. And then I will stamp the images in embossing ink and then cover with pure white embossing powder, then heat set the images. For the first project, the inks that I will be using are Ultramarine, Ultraviolet and Rubellite Crisp Dye Inks. I will first start by applying the Ultramarine Crisp Dye Ink to the center of the rose with the help of a mini blending brush, and I will make sure to apply this with a very heavy hand. I will diffuse this towards the outward petals, and then I will apply the Ultraviolet Crisp Dye Ink onto the outer edges to create a second tone. And I will leave some of the portions light to add the last color. To create a third tone, that is going to be Rubellite Crisp Dye Ink. I will be adding very little of this, and it looks like a mess right now, but once this is die cut, it looks really pretty. You can create as many flowers as you want in as many color combinations as you want. Just make sure to use colors that when mixed together don't create a color that you dislike or looks bad. This is really easy to do and works very well when you are making card sets or you have tons of cards to send out. Next up are the leaves that go with this flower, and I chose to go with the Arctic Mountain Crisp Dye Ink. And I will first apply ink with a heavy hand onto the base of the leaf and then move the ink blending brush towards the tip, reducing the pressure of my hand, hence reducing the concentration of the ink as well. I want the tips to be lighter. You can definitely go with green leaves if you want to, but I do want to use some other cool shades. And to add a bit of pop to this Arctic Mountain Crisp Dye Ink, I will add a bit of ultramarine ink that I also use in the flower. Off camera, I die cut the images and I have 2 leaves and 2 flowers. I will arrange this on my grid here so I have an idea as to what my placement is going to look like, so I would know where my stenciling and inking would go. And now I will work on the background. I will start with Lavender Fields Crisp Dye Ink, which matches the whole bouquet that I created. This will just create a soft base for my background. I will also add a little bit of ultramarine and ultraviolet inks to the background, and this is going to be super light. It will just balance my bouquet. Then I will place the grid stencil over this and I will make sure to line it up at least on one side so that it remains straight. I will then apply the ultramarine, ultraviolet and also a little bit of Arctic Mountain through the stencil, and this is your choice as to how much of one ink you want to apply. I used a little bit of ultramarine, a little bit of ultraviolet and a very little bit of Arctic Mountain, as I said earlier. I will keep this lighter and then the ink blending on the images, and once I'm happy with the look, I will leave this to settle for a few minutes. I have attached the panel to my card base, and now I will add a few black splatters. The pan that you see here is from the Essential Watercolor 12 pan set. While the paint splatters were drying, I adhered some instant dimension foam tape behind the images, and then I will adhere this onto the panel. To add a bit of texture to the flowers, I added splatters of pure white ink spray using a paintbrush. This is also one of the things that sets the two cards apart. You really don't have to do this, but I wanted to show you what else you can do to make it different from the second card. Though I would advise you to stem the sentiment prior to adhering the images, but I somehow managed to stem mine. This is from the Inside and Out Thanks stem set, and I used Obsidian Pigment Ink to stem this. Now for the second card's flower, I will start with Heartbeat Crisp Dye Ink, and I will add this to the center of the rose, just added previously with the blue. Next, I will use the Coral Bliss Crisp Dye Ink, and this I will apply on the outer edge of the rose. The third ink I will add is Pinkalicious Crisp Dye Ink, and this will break away from the coral tone and add a touch of pink. Now again, I won't add this everywhere. It was just going to be a touch here and there, but it will make a lot of difference. Before working on the leaves, I will first work on the background, as I wasn't sure of the color of the leaves I would like to use here. So I'm using the leaf bed stencil and a panel of Crest Solar White cardstock. I will use the same ink that I used with the flower. Again, I will keep this super light, and I want to keep this lighter than the first background that I created. I will start by adding the Coral Bliss Crisp Dye Ink, and I will cover most of the center portion, and I will diffuse it on the left side. On the first card, I added inking first on the panel, and then I did some stenciling. And on the second panel, I started to add inking through the stencil instead of adding inking to the panel. Now, after adding the Coral Bliss, I will add Heartbeat Crisp Dye Ink, where I want to add a bit of bold color, and then to this I will add hints of Pinkalicious Crisp Dye Ink as well. If you want to soften the stencil design, if you think it is very prominent, you can remove the stencil and go over the inking with a blending tool, and the prominence will reduce quite a bit. Now I finally decided what color of leaves I wanted, and I'm using the Jet Black Crisp Dye Ink for this because I couldn't settle for any of the gray shades I have. Now keep moving the blending brush in small circular motion to avoid getting any smudges and ink marks, and use a gentle hand. You can come back in again to add more ink to the base of the flower if you want. I won't be adding any splatters to these images, so I can't hide any mistakes here. So I'll be a little careful while inking. Though if you leave it for a little bit, the inks do settle down and the marks do vanish. That is what I have noticed. I will now add black paint splatters from the Essential Watercolor 12 pan set on my panel, the background that is, and this will be on the left hand side mostly because that is where my arrangement is going to go. Once I have figured out what my placement is going to be, I will use instant dimension foam tape and adhere all the pieces on the panel. I will then stamp the sentiment in Obsidian ink from the same stamp set, Inside and Out Thanks stamp set, and that's it. Here are my two cards that I created today, and these are super easy to recreate. And on the left, it's a little bit more going on compared to one on the right because I used more images on the one that's on the left and added white splatters, plus a bit more inking on the background, and kept the one on the right a little simpler and more cleaner. Let me know which one you like more, and do you also mix ink color families or try new ink blending combinations? What is your favorite one? That's it for today. Thank you everyone for watching. Bye.